Hello everyone, Kamal from Truckadium. Today I have a very special guest with us, Daman Grewal, and he is visiting us from British Columbia. So Daman Grewal is a part owner at Centurion Trucking and American Logistics based out of British Columbia. He also participates on the board of directors of the British Columbia Trucking Association and Canadian Trucking Alliance. He has around 25 years experience in the trucking industry. Welcome again, Daman.
Thank you, Kamal. Appreciate it.
So how's been your trip going so far? Like, what brings you to the East Coast?
East Coast, some of your students for sure brings me over here. We also have customers out in Ontario and Quebec. And we also have business partners out here. So there's quite a few things that we're doing here in Ontario.
Awesome. So tell us something about your journey in the trucking industry. Like, how did you get started, and share some experience with us.
For sure. So long time ago. Probably like a lot of your viewers as well. Trucking isn't always a chosen profession. Right. We usually fall into it by accident. But I think nowadays we see it and how it emerges. And we see it all around us on the highways. We see it in the warehousing side. We see it in so many different aspects of our lives. And supply chain, it's all over the news nowadays. It never used to be. And so for myself, I never knew there was such a thing as a trucking industry growing up, because it's not really what we're taught in school. It's the basic subjects. Supply chain was not in those subjects. And when you look at the basics, math, science, English, all these social studies, you don't see it. And for me, it was one of my friends' dads was in the industry. At the time, I was working and doing schooling at the same time. And my friend's dad just said, "Hey, what are you doing right now?" And I was pumping propane at the time. And he goes, "Hey, let me get you an office job." And I didn't realize an office job meant being in the trucking industry. And so that was my start into the industry. And that was back in like 1997, 1998.
Oh, that's awesome. I was in school that time, so it's a lot of experience. Awesome. So what are your opinion about the current state of trucking industry? During COVID, I think last couple of years, the market has been crazy. But again, I think it's slowing down for last few months. So what are your thoughts about, the trucking industry, and where do you see it, like, maybe in 2023?
For sure. As you could probably tell, I've been around for a few of these cycles. And always, the beautiful thing is, like, even now when we say that the economy is a little bit slow, you look outside and you can't even tell with all the trucks that are moving.
Absolutely.
Right? So you look on the 401, 407, all these highways, and all you see is trucks.
Absolutely. And I've also been reading a lot of articles online. The experts say that yes, we're talking about recession in 2023, but trucking, they're saying we'll see maybe a milder recession. And yes, it's an essential service for the supply chain, so trucking is here to stay. And also tell us something about your business that you manage, Centurion Trucking and American Logistics. I know a lot of our Truckadium students are working with you these days, so share some thoughts on that as well.
Sure. So our specialty is team service, coast to coast. We do refrigerated dry van, so moving commodities like produce, seafood, horticulture, all sorts of general goods, whether it's furniture, tables like this, chairs like this, also heavy into electronics, auto parts, you name it, we pretty much move it. So there's not really much that we don't touch, and especially because being on the West Coast, we get to deal with a lot of the container freight volumes that come in, and so that starts getting expedited all over the US and Canada. And so for us, we're a lot of our work is going into the States and then coming back via Toronto or Montreal, or coming straight back to Western Canada, which is like BC, Alberta, and but we pretty much go all over the place.
Awesome. And so what's your fleet size like, and in terms of American Logistics as well? I know you're running a freight brokerage operations as well. If you could share some thoughts about that as well.
So on the West Coast, again, we're only about 50 trucks, fleet operation. A lot of our stuff that we do is on the brokerage logistics side of things. And so that's where we do majority of our stuff. But for the West Coast, that's a large size for the West Coast, not necessarily for Ontario or for any of these markets here. But for us, it's just again that quick time, right? Going back and forth, 2 days here, 3 days back, and so it's just quick turnaround times that we're doing with those trucks, and so we get to move a little bit faster. But just because of the geography and the way the land is laid out, the long haul portion of what we do is kind of a niche that we're into. And so our drivers are typically out for 6-7 days at a time. And there's a lot of companies that will run, like in Ontario here, we have a lot of companies that run in a small radius. So whether it's like 350 miles or something, like the Toronto-Montreal lane is quite popular, but everyone likes to be home same day or next day. And there's very few that people that want to be on the road for too long of a time.
But 50 trucks is still a decent size, and managing your freight broker and logistics operations. I'm happy that we partnered with you, and a lot of our students who take our truck dispatcher freight broker training course are working with you. Do you want to share some thoughts on a partnership and the students that are working with you?
For sure. Yeah. First of all, thank you for sending the students over. But yeah, I think, with Truckadium, I think you guys provide them a good base level theory of what the trucking industry is. And so when those students have to come apply it to the practical sense and say, okay, well, hey, now we actually got to call people. Now we got to try to book these trucks, or we got to try to get customers, or we have to actually get in this business to perform for ourselves. So we give them the platform to be able to do that. And so, we've had some students that, and it varies, right? So it varies according to the student. We've had so many various types of students come on with us, and they all come at different levels of expertise, right? Different levels of confidence, different levels of communication. And so depending on where they are, it kind of dictates their success level when they come on with us. So we have some people that can stay with us for a couple months and not have any customers and not be able to build it, not be able to really get going in the industry, just because maybe they lacked a solid foundation, or they weren't able to adapt to the skill sets that they needed to perform on the job. But then we have people that come in and 2-3 months later they're earning like massive paychecks. And I think I was sharing this with you too. We had this a student, and even before, like when I was talking to him, I kind of knew. I'm like, hey, this guy's got something. He's got all the skill sets, qualities, and he's saying all the right things. And even though he never had any previous freight brokerage experience, he came in, and I think in his 3rd month, his paycheck was about just under $10,000. And then just in the month previous year, he made $17,000.
That's not bad actually. I don't see many people making that kind of money actually. Not many jobs pay you like where you make like $17,000 a month. So definitely there are a lot of opportunities. And for the viewers, you all know we provide this truck dispatcher freight broker training session. So we cover a lot of part on the dispatching side and brokerage as well. But a lot of our students actually who want to actually work as freight broker agents, and they want to actually get that practical experience and work on the field, making phone calls to the shippers, booking loads. So I think Daman and his team, and they take that forward and they train them further. And a lot of them have been doing really, really well in terms of for themselves, for the company. So Daman, what I see is we interact with a lot of people on a daily basis. Like, people call us, my sales team, and they're looking at a lot of opportunities in trucking. So people want to be working as truck dispatchers. They want to get a job in a trucking company, or there are a lot of people who will say, hey, I want to be my own boss. Like there are people who want to work like as an independent truck dispatcher, or there are a lot of owner-operators, truckers who want to get their own authority, start their own business. Off late, we have been seeing a lot of people saying, hey, I want to become a freight broker. Now, I know if you have the sales skill and you know how to communicate, you have that confidence, anybody can become a freight broker. But for a lot of people, what I see is the challenge is getting their own licensing, and that kind of investment in the beginning and getting that support and all is not feasible. So a lot of people actually do come and they say, hey, I want to become a freight broker agent. And, and that's where I think a lot of people work with you, where they get an opportunity to learn further about freight brokerage and also be their own boss, set their own schedule and make a lot of money. And there's a lot of potential for sure. So my question to you is, like, what are your thoughts about all the opportunities that we have for people who are either looking for a career change in trucking, either getting a job as a dispatcher, broker, logistics coordinator, or they're planning to explore something on their own where, they have no cap on income potential and they have flexibility and they want to grow their career or maybe their business?
Yeah, so I think a lot of that depends on the student themselves. Like, what are your goals? So that's the question I would ask you first is, okay, if I'm going to choose an entrepreneurial route, which is the freight broker route, which has uncapped earnings, but are you okay for a few months if you don't land those clients,
right,
and you're not earning an income, and so that becomes important.
right.
So if you're looking for something that pays the bills, then you have to kind of go into the trucking operations side of things, right?
Right.
And that's just saying, okay, well, I'm okay doing administrative work. I'm okay learning from the bottom, working my way to the top, right? Depending on your skill level again,
right.
you know. So a lot of times you're dictating that yourself. But you know, the beautiful thing is once you do a course like this,
right,
hopefully you're able to differentiate and say, okay, which avenue do I want to go into? Is it the trucking operational side, which you do get stuck with certain hours? You know, it is a lot of hard work. You are dealing with drivers, and you are dealing with a lot of different aspects of information coming at you, you know, kind of on all the different levels, because you also have to follow a lot of regulations
right.
in the trucking industry. And so if you've learned about USDOT, National Safety Code,
right.
all that stuff has to be implemented and
Right,
has to be
right.
followed to the T
Right.
when it comes to the trucking operations. When it comes into the freight brokerage side, you're actually separating a little bit from the actual trucking component, because you're not actually having to comply with ELDs, you're not having
Right.
to comply with a lot of the NSC and documentation
Right.
regulations. You kind of leave that up to the carriers, but you become the middle person,
Right.
which is the manager.
Right.
And so it's almost, again, talking about being in the boss, it's like going to the CEO level of a
Right.
company.
Right.
So the question you have to ask yourself in that situation is, are you CEO capable?
Right.
Right? Do you have that skill set inside of you?
Right.
Do you? And the only thing is it's just a feeling you have inside,
Right.
because anyone can do it.
Right.
And the only thing is, are you willing to learn the skill sets as the
Right.
situations come along?
Right.
And so the beautiful thing is, you know, Kamal, the students that you send over, within the first couple days, these guys are already having communication with customers,
Right.
and the customers are already willing to do business with them.
Awesome.
Right?
Okay.
So that happens right away.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the question becomes about skill set.
Right.
And the skill set is, okay, hey, now can I carry that conversation forward with the
Right.
customer? Can I
Right.
get into the negotiation?
Right.
Can I secure the business? Will the customer trust me enough?
Right.
And this is just the CEO value set you
Right.
bring to the table.
Right.
But if you can build that trust with the customer, he's going to give you that shipment. He's going to give you those loads. You're going to start making an income, right? So it's all about, you know, how do you feel as an individual? Where do you feel you're capable of going in this industry? And so take as much knowledge as you can. Learn from people like Kamal, and that's what I would recommend. Is once you're sure yourself. Again, there's people like us that are there to provide a platform for you to be able to show your skill sets. And the other beautiful part is we have a non-compete clause in our company,
Oh, okay.
a no non-compete clause,
Okay.
which means at any time if let's say a student wanted to start his own trucking company or wanted to start their own brokerage, they're actually allowed to go and do that. And so the customers that they build on their own, we actually just say, hey, you know what? That's your book of business. That's your business. Do it how you want, right? They get the full flexibility. You get a little bit more time flexibility when it comes to freight brokerage.
Right. Right.
You get to enjoy a lot of the perks that a CEO would be able to, or if you go into a company and you see the manager, and you're like, hey, how come the manager only shows up for a couple hours a day, right? And then you figure out, well, he's bringing this much value to the company, and that's how he's able to do it.
I know.
And so, yeah, I mean, you know, people and people have told me this. They go, you know what? It's easier. It's easy when we see people in that situation, but now that we have to do it. Wow, it's a little bit difficult.
I know,
right?
I know.
So,
yeah. No, thank you very much for sharing that. Yeah, I agree, and that's a very good point you brought up. Actually, you know, the non-compete. I think I'm myself against non-competes. I think these relationships have to be built on trust, and that's amazing. Like if you're saying, you know, if let's after a year or so, if they feel okay, they want to go on their own, I think that should be okay, like, you know, as an organization, because they would have anyways contributed in a lot of way, and they would have also got a lot of things back from you in terms of the learnings. And I think that's one of the very big differentiators, I would say, right? So the starting point when we were trying to build that relationships, and also thank you for answering all these questions here about, you know, the opportunities. And for the viewers, just let me tell you, now people do come us for these training sessions where we do this session like in 2 full days or 4 half days. Like it's a short course. And a lot of people say, hey, Kamal, can you teach us everything in 4 days or 2 days? That's not what we promise to do. Our goal is basically in these 2 days or 4 half days we actually build up your knowledge from the ground up. So we give you information about all the opportunities that are available. So like Daman said, after this session, you will know, okay, do I want to get into a job as a dispatcher? Do I want to get into brokerage? Do I want to start my own trucking company? We have a lot of owner operators who come and they want to get their own authorities, or I want to maybe do something on my own. So the idea of these training is to provide you a clear path, and then you have to build upon that, right? So you have to spend a lot of time in educating yourself, or going onto platforms like Daman's team provides, where you can actually try to apply those skills, for example, as a freight broker. So it will take a while. It's not easy to make that kind of money. When we say, like Daman said, you have to be that CEO material, or you have to be having that kind of passion and perseverance and that focus, because it's a lot of hard work, right? And to become a pro in a field, you can't just, spend 2 days, 4 days, or a week or a month. It's an ongoing process. You have to spend continuous hours learning, implementing. Now, Daman has experience since 1997. I still, consider myself as a very new person in the trucking industry, to be honest. I'm still learning. So I don't call myself as an expert. So we try to share whatever knowledge I have in whatever best possible way we can. And then we try to connect you with the right people and to provide you the right direction. So I think, thank you very much, Daman, for sharing that. Anything else you want to tell our viewers about today? Anything, any quick tip for them?
Yeah, I think, when we talk about CEO, what I'm really referring to is like, are you the CEO of your life? Right. And a lot of the skills that we think we need, it's really the soft skills. So the soft skills become like communication. How are we speaking when we're talking to somebody? Are we listening? When we're listening, when we're talking to a customer, a lot of times it's like, we got to say this, this, and this. And it's like, are we really doing the soft skills? So the soft skills are just simple, is, whether it's comprehension, communication, right? Our writing ability. Are we able to put together an email? Does it look, can it translate to what I want to say? Right? In a very simple way. And so simple communication is always the best communication, because it becomes clear, right? And so those are just the soft skills that people have to learn, and that's really all it is. And people just want to be able to communicate with people that really understand each other. And that's it.
Absolutely. And that's the point which we try to explain to everybody as well. Like when they call our sales team, they speak to myself. So a lot of people will come to us, they'll say, hey, what softwares do you teach, right? So I tell them trucking and brokerage and dispatching, and it's not about learning softwares. Today, everybody knows how to use computers. There are a lot of online demos available. The main thing is actually understanding the bigger picture, understanding how to network, communicate, negotiation. You rightly said, I think that's what will help you to become a better dispatcher, will teach you how to better communicate with the drivers, retain them. It'll help you to make better sales calls as a freight broker. It'll also help you to service your clients after the sales is done. I think communication is actually at the core of everything, right? So I think, and communication does not mean just talking and talking. It also means actively listening, comprehending, like you said, and then providing a customized solution to your customers or clients or whoever you're dealing with, right? So if you're anyways looking to take a course like dispatching, brokerage from us, from anybody else, I think that's something you should focus on. So are you there learning some set of software? Yeah, those are important as well to run your trucking business, brokerage business. We do go through them as well. But more important is basically the communication part, which Daman actually rightly mentioned. So yeah, thank you very much, Daman. So thank you for these pro tips and sharing your experience with us. And I would like to thank you for your time as well. So Daman came all the way from BC, and he has a lot of business meetings this week, and he's a busy guy. And I need to take him out for lunch now, right?
Thank you.
So thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Okay.
Yeah, best of luck to all of you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Take care.